guys, this is Ask Me Mom and Teacher by Maya. I'm here today because I want to teach you guys about the basics of behavior. Hopefully you guys have been keeping up with your language building skills for homework with your kids. If so, that's wonderful. I'm extremely proud of you for doing that. Today, the topic is rather broad. I'm going to try to simplify it as much as possible. If you're able to access this live stream and type in some questions to me, that'll be great. And if you're not, then you're welcome to watch the recording of this and then message us later at Raising Beautiful Little Minds, okay? All right, so to begin, I just want to make sure that you guys still understand the difference between speech and language, and that we're still building on those skills. A lot of times we don't understand that the lack of language can cause some behaviors. So we want to make sure that we address that today. We're going to go through four specific areas that you would want to look at within your home or within just in your daily life. And remember, this is only the basics. If you want more, just let us know, and then we'll try to give you more detailed behavior opportunities at another time. Okay? Alrighty, friends. The first thing that I wanted to address is emotional intelligence. If you guys got a chance to watch my video with my husband yesterday, it basically was autism, a dad's perspective. I'm sorry, I was reading up, but it's basically a dad's perspective on autism, his perspective on that. And so what you want to do is you probably want to go back and watch that so that you can see how he introduces and how he discusses emotional intelligence. And my husband's very thorough with that, and I'm glad that he brought that up because that is where we're going toward today. Emotional intelligence is basically making sure that you and your child are communicating through the physical expressions and so forth. And how you can do this is that you want to teach your child how to identify these traits in someone's face, and you want to be able to identify your own child's traits when you're looking at them, so that there's no confusion. You want to make sure that they understand this. And one way to do that is to have a chart. Having a chart is vital, okay? And what I like to do is I like to have in my home, how I introduce this to my child, and at school, and I have my lights up, so I don't know how clear you guys can see that, but I offer this as an opportunity for my students and for my children when they were small to look at, okay? And for you at home, what you might want to do is if you were to purchase a chart like this. Now this particular chart, you can get it off Amazon. I think these are like $3. There are also several apps that offer emotions charts to teach your child emotions. I'll try to make sure when we put up the recording that I'll attach what those apps are that you can go to help your child with identifying emotions. That's going to be very helpful. Okay, so if you were to purchase a chart like this and you didn't want to hang it up on the wall at home, what I would do is I would cut out each picture. Okay, I would cut out each picture and I would put it on a ringlet. And what I mean by that is that I have a lot of, I know that you saw me last time with these cards. Okay, I would have a ringlet. Now that ringlet was small, but I have several large ones. These are cheap. You can get these from Dollar Tree. You can get these from your dollar store. And if you want to purchase them off Amazon, you can as well. So I would take a ringlet like this. I would use my hole puncher. After I've cut out each one of these cards, I would place a hole in it. Just as I've done here. Okay? It's just that simple. Now, I know that that is very broad for you. Somebody might be like, well, those are too many emotions for my child to address. What you don't understand is that your child is most likely going to address the picture. They're going to label the picture. And remember what we talked about with labeling. They're going to take their pointer finger and they're going to touch. Okay? So for my students and for my children when they were small, when they had a difficult time explaining how they felt and they were in somewhat of a meltdown and or tantrum, because there's a difference between a tantrum and meltdown, and we won't address that today, but we're going to address the basics of behavior because that's an extensive um, um, conversation. Okay, so upside down. So what I do is when they walk in that morning, when they come to school, I have this available for them so they can tell me how they're feeling within the group. And a lot of times, even if they're not able to verbalize, they're still able to show me their emotions. I had one student who was very shy. We could not figure out why she wouldn't want to join the group or join in on activities. And she would always, if she was nonverbal, she had just turned 3, she would always pick this one. And when she would touch that picture, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I feel shy too. Sometimes I don't want to talk to a whole bunch of people. And then she would sometimes nod her head, or she'll go back and she'll still be coping with the fact that she's a member of the group. So she's probably not up to laughing and smiling, but she still is participating. So we want to make sure that we address those emotions, that they have emotional intelligence, that we are aware of what they're thinking and what they're feeling, and they know that we understand that. Aside from emotional intelligence, what you want to do to address those behaviors is you want to make sure that you understand social skills. And this is a simple way to teach these social skills. There are 2 different things, especially with our young ones, that we want to address. We want to address play skills and making friends. And for that, when your child comes into the setting or into any type of activity and you want to introduce a toy to them, you don't just give them the toy. You want to hand them to the toy and try to attempt to take turns. And this can be difficult at first. Remember how I taught you to set up the environment where your child is sitting here and you're sitting there? You're going to use this opportunity to sit down with them and play with a toy with them. Turn taking. It's my turn, and you're going to take it and give it back. Take it and give it back. And then that will introduce those first steps of play skills. And a lot of times we want our children to join in with groups. The first step for you to do this at home is to initiate a group within the household. If you have older siblings, this is great for him. If you have a spouse or someone else in the home, my mother was with us a lot, so it would be my husband, myself, and my son's grandmother, and we would sit down with him and create an environment for him to play and feel that he was a part of the group. Now, this doesn't make things happen overnight, and I don't want you to think that, well, I tried it and it didn't work. That's not how this works. It's going to come over time. Once he sits with you and you guys are communicating through the language that you guys that you've developed over time, you will see that he'll want to join in more so. So when you're going into a play group situation, because he knows how to play with you, you want to help guide him into that group and set up the environment. And this is difficult because a lot of times when you go out, you want to just go to the playground. What I would do is I'd be like, hi guys. As a parent, I would meet the other parents and I would talk to them and I'd be like, hi, my son, this is Christian. And I'd say, hey, you know what? My son likes this. Does your son like that? And then in doing so, that will help that parent help introduce their child to your child, and your child will have the opportunity to engage with that child. And that may not be verbal right away, but then they will learn. It's a group activity. You're setting up the environment for you guys to transition into a larger play activity together. So once he's out on the playground, and if you don't get a chance to talk to that parent, and you see that that he desires to be with a particular group, Teaching, a lot of times our kids already have parallel play skills, and parallel play skills is wherein they are not quite a member of the group, but they're on the outside playing along next to the person. And our child might think, wow, I'm really playing with them. When they have a card and they're playing over here and the other kid is playing over there, that's not the actual intent. We want them to actually play with the one car, join in together, or play, or like crash cars, which I teach a lot. I like, okay, let's crash our cars, because a lot of kids don't think, they don't realize that that's fun. And then when they see that that's fun, crashing cars, and it can become a behavior situation later on. But the whole point of that is for them to introduce themselves, to play skills, and interact with other children and other people. Okay, now making friends. I kind of touched on that when you have the help of the adult to help your child, because they're younger, to make friends. Now, if your child is older, for instance, with our son really doesn't have a huge problem making friends. But for us, with him going to middle school next year, we are teaching him how to basically start a conversation, and or more so listen to what the was being said within the conversation, and then join in and say, well, oh, I like this, or say, I don't like this, I play this particular game, and then give reasons why he likes that game, and so forth. Okay. All right, so now we've kind of touched on the emotional skills, how you teach emotional intelligence, and those social skills. Now we want to dive into behavior. Okay, for behavior, let me go down on my screen so I can make sure that I'm clear. All right, so once you've addressed the emotional portion, and you've addressed some of those social situations, most likely those behaviors that you've seen in the past, they'll diminish, because the child feels like you understand them. A lot of times behaviors arise because they feel like no one's listening to them. Although they may not be verbally saying anything, they feel like they are not a part of the group. So what you want to do is that you want to make sure you are attending to their emotional needs, and that you are seeing if there's any social needs that need to be addressed right away. Okay, so once you've done those two things, the behavior most likely will diminish. All right, now in behavior, as with anything, there are three things that you want to make sure that you are aware of. These three things are the A's, the B's, and the C's of behavior. Okay, now when I say this, someone might be like, what is she talking about? And then those of you who have been doing this a while, you guys know that ABC means antecedent, behavior, and consequence. And what those are the antecedent refers to what happens first. The behavior is the result of what happens, and the consequence occurs because of the behavior. So it's a follow through. Okay, let me give you a situation. When my son was young, he didn't like loud noises, and my husband gave you a situation yesterday where he heard a motorcycle. This is when he identified with my son having there was something else wrong. So there, a loud motorcycle went off because they were standing right next to it. My son didn't like the noise, so the noise went off. The behavior that resulted from that was that my son grasped onto my husband so tightly, it was as if he like join bodies, and he kept hugging, and he wanted my husband to hug him tighter. And the consequence of that was basically us taking him from the situation, removing him from that setting to help him calm down. Okay, so what you want to do is that, come in. I'm working. Okay, I'll be out in just a moment. Thank you, sweetie. Close the door. All right, so sorry about that. Still a mom of three. So in that situation, you want to set up environments. And I know this is crazy. You're like, well, I can't set up every environment. No, you can't. But what you want to do is identify the most difficult behaviors that your child is having. You want to identify those behaviors that your child is having, and you want to go ahead and address those, the significant ones. The ones that are ear piercing, the ones that are causing you stress at night. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I did not sleep. I we rarely slept. We slept on maybe like 4 hour shifts, and sometimes I still don't sleep like that because I have students and so forth, and sometimes parents call in the night because of situations. But um, it's hard to sleep when you're dealing with all of this. Some of those behaviors can come in the middle of the night, and some children just don't sleep. My son did not sleep until he had his full night of sleep when he turned 8 years old. And so I want you to know that I'm with you on that. So this is not an easy situation. So let me get back to this. So you want to address those behaviors that are causing you the most difficulty and causing your child the most difficulty. Make sure once again that you've addressed their emotions, because sometimes once they get into that, you might have missed something. You may want to pull out the cards. You may want to point to the board, point if you have the chart on the wall, and I'll just pull the chart up one more time. Like I said, you guys can cut these out and make cards with these. It doesn't have to look like this, okay? You want to make sure that your child is able to explain to you or show you how they're feeling, or if something hurts. Now, this particular chart doesn't have hurt on it. You guys, there are on Google, there are many pictures that you can use for hurt. So I would download those or even have those on your iPad. You know, if you don't want to spend money on a chart, have these things available. So you want to address those emotions, all right? Then you want to see if it's a social concern, okay? Now, here's that behavior. Now that you've addressed emotion and social, here's that behavior. Okay, the motorcycle. The motorcycle went off. So what you do as a parent, you want to, when you take your child out, if there's a motorcycle near, you want to go ahead and explain to them that we're going to go and we're going to see motorcycles. Motorcycles are loud, okay? And they hurt. What you can do is create a social story or a social narrative. They're pretty much the same. It's just the terminology. Professionals like to say narratives because social stories is the term that was deemed by the person who initiated the strategy, which works. So what you want to do is you want to create that and curate that through pictures. And I don't want to dive into that just yet because there's so much more that I have to give you in this short period of time. I'm serious. This is really, you know, really good stuff that you want to take in. So you want to go ahead and tell your child, okay, so there are going to be motorcycles there, and the motorcycle is going to be really, really loud. And what I want you to do is when you see a motorcycle, point to the motorcycle. And to help them address this, you can pull up on your iPad motorcycles, pictures of motorcycles, and have them point, oh, which one is the motorcycle? Or just touch. And then it could be one picture of the motorcycle. Okay, it's going back to that labeling that we did when we sat down with our child one-to-one and did that activity. If that particular item causes them distress, you want to teach them that item also. So have them identify the motorcycle. That is loud, and you want to, you know, make it loud. It hurts your ears. Be very sensitive to them. It hurts your ears. Explain to them that that is going to hurt your ears. So when that happens. For a lot of parents, we have the headphones. I have headphones for my sons, some noise canceling headphones. You can say, we'll take your noise canceling headphones so that you can have those. But if you feel like that, you can squeeze us. So walk your child through those steps. Set up the environment. Set up the situation. And practice it at home. You could pull out a play motorcycle and then pretend, the loud noise goes off. Then you take the motorcycle and you're like, oh, and then have him point, or you all of you can point so that he can know, point that he's pointing to. That is the noise that caused him duress. And then you guys quickly go ahead and put the headphones on, and you smile and you walk him through the steps, and that way you're praising him and saying, see how you communicate with us, and see how you were able to calm down, and you're able to address that behavior through that ABC step, and you didn't realize that you were doing that. You saw what the antecedent was. That was that noise from that motorcycle. The behavior, oh my God, it could be more than that. My son thought he could get inside of my husband and escape the noise, and he couldn't, but the other behaviors could be more than that. But you've addressed it by letting them shift that behavior to headphones, or teach them what a calm body is and identifying the noise. And then the consequences is that he's calm, he's relating, and he's communicating. And that's the whole goal of that. Okay, now let me see if I've touched on everything. Okay, now I do want to say that there are four behaviorists identify four types of behavior. Okay, there's the escape and avoidance. And we teachers experience this all the time. If we pull out a math activity and John doesn't want to do the math activity, then John is going to have a situation. He's going to probably drop a book on the floor or do something else. That's for our older teachers when I taught high school. And for our younger ones, if they don't want to participate in an accounting activity, they might push the activity on the floor or take it and tear it. Those are behaviors that you'll experience during avoidance, and sometimes you experience these same things at home. So like you pull out a dish that has broccoli on it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the behavior, the broccoli is antecedent. They see the broccoli. The antecedent, that's it. So your behavior is that he's going to probably push the broccoli or start already closing their mouth. I'm like, I'm not participating in this. I have no desire to eat broccoli. And then the consequence is that the broccoli is probably going to sit on the table or he's going to see you cleaning it up, and then he kind of like wins because if you don't address the behavior right then and say, yeah, I have a tip about feeding them, getting them to eat. So if you will just look on our Raising Beautiful Little Minds Facebook group, it's there. Okay, and I'm not saying that these tips are going to help our miracles. As a parent, we try and we do whatever works for our child. And I'm not trying to force my advice on anyone. I just want you to know that I'm a mom just like you, and I'm willing to try just like you are, whatever it takes to support my kid. All right, so then that was the first one, escape and avoidance. And the second one is attention seeking. And so, yes, we experience this a lot. Like, okay, your child is like, oh, no one's looking at me. And so then they might do a behavior just so that they can get your attention. And you're like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Sometimes we don't know why. And once again, I'm going to fall back on the tantrum and meltdown. Those are two different things. I'm not really addressing meltdown right now, but some of these things can keep your child from having a meltdown. When you don't address this behavior, oh yes, ma'am, these behaviors can lead to a major meltdown. And once they reach that meltdown state, you're going to have to let them have that moment. You're going to have to let them have that moment. Fighting through that is a whole nother thing, another ordeal. Like I said, I'm going to go over that in more detail, and that detail requires that you teach them those calm down skills, because it's hard. It's hard because when I get upset and I get frustrated, I do crazy stuff too, and I say crazy stuff. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, I need to go back and practice some of these strategies that I know and get myself together. So even as adults, we have those meltdown stages. So, and then the third thing that they suggest is that the child is doing this because they're seeking to get a material, something that they really want. And this most likely for my son, I'm just going to put my son out there, and that is his iPad. He loves his iPad, and now it's not even iPad, it's his PS4. Oh my goodness, he loves that game. And so that's our first strategic way of handling behavior. We have to address technology with him. There's so many things that I feel about technology. That's why I try to avoid introducing it when they're so young, unless it's as a communication tool, because once they get addicted, once they like it, it can be it could be a struggle, and that's when you have to put in that schedule and routine. And the schedule and routine are two different things. We'll talk about that also as well. Sensory stimulation. So we've said escape and avoidance, we've said attention seeking, and we've said seeking materials that they really want, and the sensory stimulation. So for our kids, they need that sensory. Sometimes behaviors result because they have to have that moment. For my son, I know that you're probably tired of me hearing about my son, but I'm just giving you an example, and then I'll give you an example of a couple of my students. For him, his sensory need was to have a pillow. And it took me a while to figure this out. When I was pregnant with him, my husband brought me this big, long brown pillow. And so I kept the pillow for all three of the two children that follow behind. And I would wonder why every time he saw that pillow, he would get on top of that pillow. I was like, oh, he's being kind to his brother or sister. He wants to lay with them. No, he wanted that pillow. And so after they got to a certain age, I was getting ready to discard the pillow. So I found the pillow with him, and duh, mom, the pillow's in his room. You try to throw it away. I thought, well, oh, he thinks that that we're gonna keep it, and I was like, oh, it's trash. No, he had a situation. He had a meltdown about. He had a tantrum first because at that point we were, he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this, and then maybe she'll give in. I had no clue because I didn't see those emotions and I didn't see that social need that he was trying to communicate with me at that instance. Like, I need this. Then that sensory dipped in, and then I was like, oh, so you're doing this for the pillow. And so that pillow is his like number one friend. He that's his thing. And he requires that pillow because I saw him one night when he was small. He'd take that pillow and wrap it around him and hug himself, and that was his thing. And for my students, a lot of times when they're introduced to different activities, and I expect, I said, this is gonna be difficult. This might be difficult for you, okay? So if it gets to be too hard for them, and they still want to try it, because we don't want to stop our children from trying, because kids want to be successful. I kid you not, they want to be successful, and they want to see you smile and say, good job. Oh, and make sure when you say good job that you're being specific. You did a good job pointing to the letter, or you did a good job pointed to the motorcycle. You want to be strategic in answering them and making sure that they know why they did a good job. That is so vital, and that is so important. So I'm getting a little bit off topic, but that sensory stimulation, when they get that way, when they start to get frustrated. I had one student, and I'll probably put a picture up if her mom says it's okay. She was so frustrated one day, like this is the same 3-year-old. That told me that she was shy, and she and I was just working together. She got so frustrated, so mad with me, and I was like, okay, let me let her have this moment. I was sitting on my side, and she was on her side. She stood up, and this is after us teaching her calming skills. She walked to our kitchen, our classroom kitchen, our little kids' kitchen, and there were dolls there, and she took one of the dolls out of the chair. It's the cutest thing. And she sat the doll in front of her, and she sat in front of the doll, and she did a calming activity with the doll. This is how I taught her to calm herself with me. And she went and she took the doll, and she was still very upset. Oh, she was going through the motions, but she was able to calm herself. She centered herself, and she needed that. So she needed that space. So sometimes that sensory stimulation can be a result, can be the result of behavior. And for me, those 4 things, I'm going to repeat them because I've been all over the place. I'm sorry. Escape and avoidance, attention seeking, when they seek a material, seeking that wanted item, and then the sensory stimulation. Those are the 4 for behaviorists. They agree on those 4. Most behaviorists agree on those 4. For me, as a mom and as a teacher, I always say that there's an area of control. For instance, you'll have some children, and because we haven't addressed the emotion and that social need, control becomes an issue. They're like, well, if you don't do this, I'm going to do that. And they don't have to say anything to you. It's just that if you push a chair in the table, they'll pull the chair out of the table, out from the table. For instance, my son was very, highly gifted. Like I said, he could read. And we would have pictures up and with words next to him. And I'd say, oh, that word is house. And he would point to his picture, horse. And I'd say, I might have this opposite, but I'd say, no, that's house. And he could read. He knew what it was. And there was a picture of a house sitting next to it. And he would point to it. He'd say, horse, horse, horse. Just to push my buttons. I learned not to like to push my buttons. But there is an area of control for some children, that they want to be the one in charge. And sometimes you have to just say, well, I'm the parent, and be calm about it. I'm still a parent. And you might not do this with a smile, because I'm letting you know. In the emotional state, you have to let your children know what your emotions are too. Because if you're always happy, or if you're always, then they're like, well, that doesn't bother mom. I can take it to the next level. You have to be like, oh no, this is how mom feels. You pull out the chart too, and you say mom feels. Well, I hate to do this, but I would say when my son gets out, because I would start getting angry, because I would have tried everything, and I'd be like, you feel angry. Mom feels angry too because you won't let me help you calm down. And so that may be something. Or you could say, I'm tired. That's why I'm not doing this particular activity with you, because they might be seeking an activity to do with you. And so you want to point out those emotions. Don't leave the emotions just to the child. You want to make sure that you're addressing that as well. Now, let me make sure that I've touched on all the things, the basics for today. Oh, here's a biggie, the ABA. This is probably why many of you, or some, want to watch this particular stream today. ABA. Let me explain to you what ABA is. ABA is Applied Behavior Analysis. Let me explain. Now, everyone do not believe in ABA, and it's fine. ABA is such a highly utilized tool because it's the most research-based. It has a lot of, the research has proven that it works. That's what they're saying, and it has worked with not just children on the spectrum. It works with in our daily lives. And I'm just going to be clear why it works. ABA is a systematic teaching tool. So when you're teaching your child how to go to the bathroom, you're teaching that systematically. Okay? Now, you're going to find out as a mom, you don't even realize you're doing ABA, but you're doing it. You're going to find that, okay, this is what you're watching, you're being very observant to see what your child is lacking when they're trying to do a specific skill. I'm just going to use bathroom. If they're going into the bathroom and you see that they're ready to use the bathroom, they may not know how to pull their pants down. Okay? So an ABA strategy for you would be to address specifically pulling down. You want to teach how to, if it's buttoning or unbuttoning, for small ones we usually try to just avoid, or have larger size pants, or having not Velcro, but the elastic waist, to teach that. And if they're still in their pull-ups, yes, you want to teach that skill. And then you don't realize how excited they get when they see that you're excited about them doing systematic steps. And that is where ABA is, teaching those steps that we don't even realize exist. We just think we're going in the bathroom, we're going to flush through. No. You're going in the bathroom. You're going to turn on the light when you walk into the bathroom if the light is not on. You're going to walk in, you're going to walk toward the toilet. You're going to turn, it's very systematic. Because for some kids, for our boys, dads are like, well, I don't want him to sit down, I don't want him to stand up. So it's a systematic step, and I don't want to go all into detail with that, because somebody's like, well, can you tell me how to do this? Please contact us on Raising Beautiful Little Minds, and we'll give you a step. We'll give you those steps, okay? And then you can cut out the steps that you don't need. That's ABA. All right, now, as far as for eating, like with our kids, when they're eating with ABA, when we're watching, we're observing, we're making sure that we're watching them. We're trying to figure out how they're holding their utensil when they're older. When they get about 2 or 3, you want them to hold it a little bit better. If they don't have any OT concerns, you want to hold it a little bit better. So then you're strategically watching and seeing, oh, this is what I need to teach my child. Okay. Also, how we address ABA could be in the same situation where you're learning to teaching them to sit. Remember, go back to that process, learning to teach them to sit, and you're here. So you want to cut off all of these other distractions. Okay, this is when you're actually teaching the skill and you're sitting in front of the child, because ABA can be used pretty much to teach everything. But when you're teaching a specific skill in front of them, this is an academic skill. You want to follow those steps of the looking eyes, listening ears. I don't care how old they get. Even with my child at 11 or my daughter who is 8, I still go through these steps where I'm looking at her. Even though I'm not saying that, she knows that I'm looking for a calm body so that we can move forward into teaching that particular strategy. Now, there's so much more to ABA. And I didn't say this, but I'm going to say this. ABA for some is not the same for all. It should be, but some people are very strategic, and they're like robots, and life is not a robot. And so we try to teach it so it's fluid. That's why I said it's a systematic step, and you want to teach these steps as fluid, as routine, as it is to be done. And that's how we signify the difference between a schedule and routine, which we'll go over a little bit later because that's another 30 minutes. And I know that's a lot of information for me to throw on you all at one time. Once again, I want you to go back and address your child's emotional intelligence. Find a way to get pictures so that show how they feel. Find it on your phone, guys. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of money. If you want to spend a whole bunch of money, go do it. I mean, we homeschool our kids and we pulled as many free resources as we could. We will try as a group on Raising Beautiful Little Minds to have a dynamic resource available for you soon. But for now, we're asking that you go and try to get this particular one. Should be on Amazon. You might be able to find this at Walmart, friends. Might be able to find it at Dollar Tree. I don't know if it's at Dollar Tree, but if there's something on emotions, find it so your child can point that out. Then you want to work on your child's play skills. You want to work on their friendship skills, and you teach that within the home. You can teach that. You can practice that. Walk them through the steps with that, and we'll touch on social stories and social narratives later. Then you want to look at actually addressing the behavior, and there's the ABCs of behavior: antecedent, behavior, and the consequence. You want to look at those, and then the function of those behaviors. Why is the child doing this? And those 4 functions I went over with you, and the additional one that I said as control, which is a lot in my household. And then finally, the ABA. ABA is basically, the title of it is Applied Behavior Analysis. And I kid you not, if your child has a good teacher, they are doing ABA. They are systematic. They are investigating to find out what specific step they need to teach the child, and they are working dynamically on that step so that the child can move forward. And a lot of times, some of those steps don't have to be addressed. They can just be speedy. They can just go in there and go use the bathroom and come right out, or they can go and eat as usual, or they can learn a skill as without any additional steps involved in that. But you want to make sure that you find a teacher that is strategic and systematic and consistent and teaching specific steps. And I kid you not, I don't care what anybody else says, that is ABA. Okay? All right, friends, I have had such a good time talking to you guys today. Come back and join us on Raising Beautiful Little Minds. We have so many resources for you to access. We have a wonderful team of individuals for you to meet through the group. So please just come join us again. And thank you so much for your time today. I want to give this away because I have several of these. I don't know if this will be helpful to someone. So if you guys will contact us on Raising Beautiful Little Minds, that will help us out a whole lot so that I can, and it's all it is once again, like I told you, get your laminator and your color printer and get to work making those flashcards and everything that you need. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.